They tell you the scariest moment in a marriage is when you catch someone cheating. That's a lie. The scariest moment is when you realize the person you've been sleeping next to is smarter than you and they've been planning your destruction for months. If you think you know your partner, ask yourself this: would you bet your entire life on it? Because 5 minutes before my doorbell rang at 2 p.m., I would have put my soul on the line for my husband. 5 minutes later, I was holding proof that he'd already buried me. The doorbell didn't sound normal. It was sharp, loud, like the universe was slamming on a panic button. I wasn't expecting anything. No Amazon order, no groceries, just me, the dog passed out on the rug, and a half-finished spreadsheet open on my laptop. I opened the door in socks and a hoodie, annoyed at being interrupted, and there he was, FedEx guy holding a thick, flat package, like it weighed more than paper ever should. Signature required, he said. I signed without even reading the name. That's how trust works. You don't inspect the knife until it's already in your back. The second I closed the door, I noticed the stamp in red ink, strictly confidential. My stomach dipped. That wasn't normal. I turned the package over. It was addressed to my husband, and the return address wasn't a warehouse or fulfillment center. It was an office suite downtown. I didn't recognize the name, but it sounded legal. To legal. I stood in the hallway with the package pressed against my chest, feeling stupid for the way my pulse spiked over nothing. My brain tried to soothe me. Maybe it's work, paperwork, maybe it's insurance stuff, maybe it's boring. That's what we do when the truth is too loud. We turn the volume down. But curiosity already had me by the throat. I pulled out my phone and typed the name into Google. The search result loaded, and my entire body went cold. Aggressive divorce litigation and asset protection. I actually laughed, like a broken, panicked laugh you hear in horror movies right before someone gets dragged into the dark. I told myself it had to be a coincidence. There are a million law firms. Not everything is about you. That's what people say right before their life explodes. I carried the package into the kitchen and set it on the counter like it was a bomb. The dog lifted his head, sensed the shift in the room, then went back to sleep. My hands were shaking, so bad I had to brace them against the marble. I stared at that envelope for a long time, trying to convince myself not to open mail that wasn't mine. Then I remembered how my husband kissed my forehead that morning and told me he couldn't wait for the weekend. So I grabbed a knife. I sliced the tape, expecting, I don't even know what I was expecting. Maybe one page, maybe boring paperwork. Instead, a thick stack of documents slid out like a confession that had been waiting months to be heard. The first page had both our names on it, his name at the top, mine underneath, and a phrase I never thought I'd see connected to my life. Petition for dissolution of marriage. My legs gave out. I didn't fall, I sank. Like gravity just decided to double itself. The room tilted, and suddenly I was on the floor with cold tile against my thighs and the paperwork spread out like a crime scene. He wasn't just leaving me, he was erasing me. I flipped pages in a fog, catching words that felt like punches. Emergency freeze of asset, allegations of emotional instability, requests for spousal support from me, claims on the house I put the down payment on, claims on accounts he barely contributed to. It wasn't a breakup, it was a strategy, a full-blown legal ambush. And then I saw the date. 3 months earlier. My chest tightened like it was being squeezed by a fist. 3 months ago, we were on a beach, toasting to our anniversary. 3 months ago, he told me I was his forever. 3 months ago, he'd already paid a lawyer to plan how to rip my life apart. I flipped deeper into the stack and found something worse. Financial disclosures, accounts I didn't recognize, an LLC with a name I'd never heard, transfers in amounts small enough to avoid raising red flags. The man who forgot to cancel a gym membership had quietly moved 6 figures out of our shared world and into a secret one. I checked the time. 2:47 p.m. He wouldn't be home until around 6. I had a little over 3 hours to decide if I was going to be the woman he thought I was, or the woman he had no idea he created. Every emotion hit at once. Shock, nausea, rage so sharp it made my teeth buzz. My first instinct was to call him and scream, to confront him, throw the papers in his face, watch him stutter. That urge felt good for exactly half a second. Then something colder took over. If he'd spent months planning this, he was expecting a breakdown. He was counting on tears, on panic, on me looking unstable while he played calm and calculated in court. The version of me in these papers was weak, emotional, easy to control. That version of me died on the kitchen floor. I stood up, wiped my face, and did the opposite of what my heart wanted. I took photos of every single page, every accusation, every hidden account. I memorized dates, names, amounts. Then I slid the papers back into the envelope, lined up the tape as best I could, and pressed it shut like nothing had happened. I walked into his office and tucked the package under a stack of magazines. He never touched them. I looked around the house we built together. Every photo on the walls suddenly felt like evidence. Every smile felt staged. Every memory felt rehearsed. The man I married wasn't gone. He'd never existed. I had been married to a performance, and I realized something that made my stomach flip in a completely different way. If he had a lawyer, hidden money, and a plan, then this wasn't just a divorce. This was a war. And I had just found the enemy's battle plans. I took a breath, pulled my phone out, and opened my bank app, already knowing that whatever I found next was about to flip my entire world upside down. And when I saw the first number, I realized the package wasn't even the worst part of what he'd been hiding from me. The first lie you believe is that betrayal looks dramatic, that it shows up loud, that there's a moment where everything shatters all at once. Nah, betrayal is quiet. It hides in routines. It lives in this space between I'm running late and I love you. And once you know where to look, it starts screaming at you from places you never thought to check. I locked myself in the bathroom and opened our joint bank account like I was about to read my own autopsy. At first glance, everything looked normal. Rent, utilities, groceries, the boring stuff, the kind of transactions that lull you into thinking your life is stable. Then I filtered the history back 6 months. That's when the pattern showed up. 200 here, 300 there, 400 on random Tuesdays. Always cash withdrawals, always spaced out. Never big enough to trigger alert. It was the financial equivalent of bleeding out slowly. I clicked into the savings account. Same thing. Micro movements. Quiet theft. My hands went numb. This wasn't impulse. This was choreography. I remembered the name on the paperwork. The LLC. I searched its public record. My heart started pounding when his name popped up as the registered agent. The address was in the city, not his office, not a business location at condo. My husband had bought a condo behind my back while we were arguing over throw pillows and talking about remodeling the kitchen next year. He was building himself an escape hatch, a private place, a place for a life I wasn't invited into. My phone buzzed. A text from him. Crazy day already, might be late tonight. It took everything in me not to reply. I know exactly where you're going. Instead, I typed, no worries. I'll save you. Then I did the thing that changes everything. I checked the phone records. We were on a shared plan. I was the account holder. I'd never once opened that tab before. Trust makes you lazy. Betrayal turns you into a detective overnight. I pulled up the last 3 months of call and text logs. One number was everywhere. Morning, late night, during his meetings, during our movie nights. I paid for a reverse lookup without blinking. The name that came back made my stomach twist. Jessica. The name hit like deja vu. He'd mentioned her once. The new paralegal. The one who was kind of clueless and needed a lot of guidance. Men love to shrink women they're sleeping with when they talk about them at home. Makes the betrayal feel smaller, easier to justify. I went to Instagram. Her profile was public. That's when the story stopped being suspicious and started being humiliating. There were photos of cocktails in dim bars on nights he told me he was stuck at the office. There were sunsets in the city taken from a balcony that looked suspiciously like the condo listing I'd just seen. And then there was the photo that made my throat close. A bouquet of roses, captioned, from him #secretlove. The date on the post matched the night of our anniversary dinner. I sat there, staring at that screen, feeling like someone had peeled my skin off in public. While I was crying over candlelight, he was texting her under the table. I scrolled and found more. A photo of 2 glasses clinking in the reflection, I saw a watch. The watch I bought him. That's when something ugly shifted inside me. The sadness burned off and left something colder, cleaner. And this wasn't just cheating. This was contempt. They weren't hiding. They were laughing at me. And here's the mid-story twist that made my breath hitch. I noticed the background of one of her photos, a framed picture on the wall, a stupid abstract print I recognized instantly. It was hanging in my house. My chest tightened. My heart started racing. There was no way. I zoomed in. The same cheap gold frame, the same off-center matting, the same dumb heart piece one bought at a street fair years ago. My husband hadn't just built a separate life. He'd brought pieces of my life into hers. That realization hit harder than the affair. It meant he wasn't just escaping. He was erasing me and repurposing my existence for someone else. I felt dizzy. I sat on the edge of the bathtub, trying to breathe like my lungs weren't collapsing inward. My phone buzzed again. Gonna crack at the office tonight. Big deadline. I laughed out loud. A sharp, humorless sound that echoed off the tile. Then I wiped my face, stood up, and did something that scared me with how calm I felt. I started planning. First move, document everything. I screenshotted every post, every call log, every transaction. I emailed copies to an account he didn't know existed. Then I hid the app on my phone. Second move, secure my own money. I transferred my personal savings into an account under my name only. Not illegal, not shady, just survival. Third move. I needed proof he couldn't talk his way out of. That's when I remembered the old tablet. We had this dusty tablet in a drawer. We used it for recipes and Netflix on flights. Was synced to his account. I plugged it in and waited, heart hammering, listening to the quiet hum of electricity like it was counting down to something dangerous. The screen lit up. Passcode. I tried his birthday. Wrong. I tried our anniversary. Wrong. Then I did something that made my skin crawl. I tried her birthday. The tablet unlocked. That tiny detail felt more intimate than any text I'd seen. He'd changed his passcode to her birthday, like a shrine, like I'd been demoted from wife to inconvenience. Messages started syncing, blue bubbles stacking on the screen like a confession he didn't know he was making. There were jokes about me, plans about the condo, complaints about having to come home to me, and one message that made my stomach drop. I moved more money today. She never checks. She trusts me too much. That line snapped something inside me. The shower turned off upstairs. I had seconds. I took photos of everything, deleted the evidence from the tablet, threw it back in the drawer, splashed water on my face. When he walked into the kitchen smelling clean and casual, I was already stirring sauce like nothing in the world had changed. He smiled at me. I smiled back. And in that moment, I realized something terrifyingly powerful. He thought I was still blind, and that meant he was about to make a mistake he couldn't undo, because now I wasn't just reacting to betrayal, I was setting a trap. And the next move I made was the one that would cost him everything he thought he was winning. But first, I had to make sure he walked right into it. If you're watching this story, tighten your blanket and hit the like button so YouTube understands you want the next chapter unlocked. And tell me in the comments, which beautiful country are you watching from? And what's the exact time there right now? I casually mentioned the condo listings I'd been seeing online. Real estate in the city is insane right now, I said one night, watching his face in the reflection of the microwave door. His jaw tightened for half a second. Blink and you'd miss it. But I didn't miss it. Another night, I joked about how sketchy LLCs can be. You never know what people are hiding, I said, stabbing my salad. His fork paused midair. Then he laughed too loud. The fake laugh people use when they think they've been exposed. That's when I knew he thought I was circling the truth but hadn't landed on it yet, which meant he felt safe enough to keep moving money. That's when I caught the next twist. I checked the accounts again and saw a larger transfer than usual. Not huge, but bigger than his normal pattern. He was accelerating. That only happens when someone feels the timeline tightening, when they sense the window closing. He didn't know I had the documents, but something in his gut told him to hurry. So I made him feel comfortable. I suggested a weekend getaway. Just us. Somewhere. Quiet. Somewhere with no Wi-Fi. His face went pale. He scrambled for excuses. Big project. Client emergency. Maybe next month. I smiled and told him it was fine. There would be no next month. That night, he fell asleep fast. The kind of sleep people fall into when they think they're in control. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to his breathing, memorizing the sound of it like I was about to lose it forever. Then I did something reckless. I checked his laptop. I knew the password. He never changed it. He thought security was for people who had something to hide. The irony almost made me laugh. His email was open, his calendar, his work folders. I didn't dig into his personal stuff right away. I went straight to the business records, the LLC paperwork, the condo documents, the trail of transactions. And that's when I found the detail that turned this from messy to nuclear. He wasn't just hiding money from me, he was hiding money from his firm. The transfers weren't random. They lined up with bonuses and client settlements, money that wasn't supposed to be his yet. He'd been skimming, not enough to raise alarms, enough to build his exit, enough to think he was invisible. I sat there in the dark with the glow of his laptop lighting up my face, realizing I wasn't married to a liar. I was married to someone committing a quiet crime. And suddenly, this wasn't just about revenge. This was leveraged out the next day. I took the sickest day of my life, not from work, from pretending. I told him I had a migraine. He kissed my forehead and left with that same fake concern he'd perfected. The second the door closed, I called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. I wanted someone who ate men like him. For Bradfordstadt, her office was cold, clean, sharp. She didn't smile when I told her my story. She listened. She asked for proof. I slid my phone across the table and watched her eyebrows lift as she scrolled through screenshots, bank statements. Misogynist here thinks he's clever, she said finally. He's not. He's reckless. I asked her what would happen if I confronted him. She shook her head. Then you lose the element of surprise. And right now, surprise is your biggest weapon. So we built a plan. Not loud, not emotional. Surgical file. First, freeze accounts before he can drain them. Subpoena records from the LOC. Loop in the firm once the paper trail is undeniable. Let him realize he didn't just lose a marriage, he set fire to his own career. The hardest part wasn't the paperwork, it was going home and acting normal. That night, I cooked his favorite meal. I laughed at his jokes. I asked about his day. I let him talk about his deadlines and his stress. The whole time, my lawyer was drafting documents that would turn his world inside out. And here's the wild party started. Getting comfortable enough to brag. I'm close to wrapping everything up, he said one night, swirling his drink. Soon, things are going to change. Change how? I asked, keeping my voice soft. You'll see, he said, smiling like a man who thought he was about to win. I smiled back because he had no idea his countdown had already started. And the moment he walked into that office meeting the next afternoon, thinking he was untouchable, was the exact moment everything he'd built in secret was about to be dragged into the light. And the way it was about to happen would make sure he could never pretend to be the good guy again. Revenge doesn't start with yelling. It starts with paperwork. It's boring, quiet, and when you're doing it right, the person you're about to destroy thinks they're winning the whole time. That's the part nobody tells you. If you move loud, you lose. If you move silent, you end lives. For 3 days, I lived like an undercover agent in my own house. I packed his stuff when he wasn't home. Suits first, the expensive ones he loved showing off. Shoes next, then the sentimental junk golf clubs. That stupid hoodie from college he refused to throw away. The framed photo of us from our first apartment. I didn't smash anything, didn't throw anything away. I bagged it all clean and neat like I was preparing evidence for court. Then I hid it in the trunk of my car. The house stayed looking normal. Our life stayed staged. The couch pillows stayed fluffed. Our wedding photos stayed on the wall. I wanted him relaxed. I wanted him thinking nothing had changed. Meanwhile, my lawyer moved like a shark. She filed first. She froze the accounts before he could drain them. She filed on grounds that didn't just expose the affair, but framed the money movement as dissipation of marital assets. She attached screenshots, transaction histories, the LLC filings. It was a legal body slam. Clean, devastating. Here's the twist he never saw coming. My lawyer didn't stop at divorce. Kortachi flagged his firm, quietly, carefully, with evidence. The same evidence that proved he was stealing from our marriage, also showed he'd been skimming from the firm. Bonuses that weren't finalized, funds that weren't technically his yet. It wasn't enough for jail right away. It was enough to trigger an internal investigation. Enough to get eyes on him. Enough to make his promotion track go up in flames. I didn't know what would happen first, him getting served, or his partners turning on him. So we timed it. The process server went to his office during their weekly meeting. All the partners, all the staff. The same room where he liked to play Biksha. The same room where his little secret sat in the front row pretending to be impressed by him. I wasn't there. I didn't need to be. I imagined it instead. The knock on the glass, the confusion, the awkward silence, his name being called out loud in front of everyone, the papers hitting his chest, his face going pale, his eyes flicking to her, realizing in real time that she wasn't just watching his downfall, she was about to get dragged into it. That image lived rent-free in my head for hours. Then my phone rang. It was him. He didn't even say hello. What the hell did you do? His voice was wrecked. Not angry, panicked. That's the sound people make when they realize they misjudged who they were dealing with. I matched your energy. I said, calm, flat. You're trying to ruin me, he snapped. No, I corrected. Him, you did that yourself. I'm just not covering for you anymore. There was heavy breathing on the other end. I could picture him in some hallway, pacing, sweating, trying to figure out how to spin this. He was a spin guy. He thought everything could be reframed. You went through my stuff, he said. You went through my life, I replied. We're even. Then he tried to switch tactics. We can fix this, he said. Let's not blow everything up. I'll come home. We'll talk. That was the funniest thing he'd said in years. I already packed your stuff, I said. You don't live here anymore. Silence. That silence was louder than any scream. I'll be there, he muttered. Don't rush, I said. Traffic's bad. I hung up before he could beg. Here's the mid-story shock. Nobody expects. Jessica showed up with him. They pulled into the driveway together, not holding hands, not looking united. She stayed in the car while he got out and saw the bags on the lawn. The image of his life reduced to trash bags cracked something in him. He didn't yell. He didn't bang on the door. He just stood there, staring, like someone had unplugged him from reality. I watched from behind the curtain. Jessica finally got out of the car. She didn't look smug. She looked scared. Her fantasy had collided with logistics. No house, no money, no clean exit. Just a man in legal freefall with a box of problems and a reputation about to implode. She said something to him. I couldn't hear it. He snapped back at her, loud, angry. That's when I knew this wasn't going to be some dramatic couple against a world ending. This was two people realizing they were each other's worst decision. He started loading bags into the trunk. One, ripped clothes spilled onto the driveway. He cursed, kicked the bumper. She flinched. That flinch that told me everything. The man she thought was powerful was just desperate. My phone buzzed again. A message from my lawyer. Accounts frozen. Firm acknowledged receipt of documentation. That was it. That was the moment the future he'd been building in secret collapsed in public. I poured myself a drink and watched him struggle to fit his life into a car. I didn't feel guilt. I didn't feel joy either. I felt done. Like finishing a long, exhausting shift at a job you never wanted. When he finally drove away, tires squealing like he was mad at the road for not forgiving him, the house went quiet in a way it never had before. And in that silence, I realized something terrifying and true. The worst part wasn't over, because the legal fallout, the money fight, the reputation damage, that was all coming next. And the final twist was going to hurt him way more than losing me ever. Could everyone thinks the hardest part is the confrontation? It's not. The hardest part is the waiting. The silence after the explosion. The days where you don't know if the person who tried to erase you is going to crawl back, crash harder, or take you down with them. That's when doubt creeps in. That's when you ask yourself if you went too far. And that's when you realize you didn't go far enough. The legal process dragged on like a bad dream you can't wake up from. Depositions, financial audits, court dates that felt more like public autopsies of a marriage than legal procedures. Every time his name came up in front of a judge, he looked smaller, less certain. The man who used to walk into rooms like he owned them now sat with his shoulders hunched. Flipping through papers, he pretended to understand. The investigation at his firm moved faster than I expected. Partners stopped returning his calls. His office door stayed closed. Then one day, he texted me something I didn't think I'd ever read from him. They put me on leave? Not fired yet, but stripped of power, stripped of access. That's the corporate version of being told to wait in the corner while adults decide your fate. I didn't respond. Weeks later, I got the update I knew was coming. His firm terminated him pending internal findings. The wording was polite. The reality wasn't. Word spreads fast in professional circles. The golden boy with the perfect marriage. Turns out he was siphoning money and lying at home. The reputation he spent years building burned down in one quiet email. And then came the twist I didn't expect. Jessica reached out to me. Not to apologize. Not at first. She messaged me late at night. The kind of message people send when their fantasy life collapses and they're staring at a wall, realizing they traded stability for chaos. I didn't know he was married when we started. She wrote, he said you were basically separated. I stared at the screen for a long time. There it was. The script. The same lie cheaters, recycle like it's copyrighted. You knew, I finally replied. You just liked your version of him better. She didn't answer right away. When she did, it wasn't what I expected. He moved in with me, she wrote. He doesn't have any money. He's angry all the time. He yells, he drinks. I think I made a mistake. I should have blocked her. I should have protected my peace. Instead, I told her the truth. You didn't steal my husband, I typed. You took my problem. That was the last thing I ever said to her. 3 months later, I heard through mutual friends that she kicked him out. The money dried up. The charm evaporated. The man she fell for couldn't survive without an audience and a safety net. Turns out being someone's secret is fun until you're their only option. The divorce finalized quietly. No dramatic courtroom speeches. No movie moment. Just signatures, dates, a judge who didn't care about our backstory. Because at the end of the day, the law doesn't care about heartbreak. It cares about receipts. And I had receipts. I kept the house. I got my savings back. He walked away with debt, legal bills, and a reputation that would follow him longer than any relationship ever did. Here's the part that surprised me the most. I didn't feel victorious. I felt free. No more guessing. No more scanning his face for lies. No more wondering if love meant being patient with disrespect. The silence in my house stopped feeling empty and started feeling peaceful. The air felt lighter without someone lying in it. And then, months later, I got the final message from him. I'm sorry. He wrote, I never meant to hurt you like that. That sentence almost made me laugh. Because here's the truth nobody tells you. People who plan your downfall don't accidentally hurt you. They choose to. I didn't reply. I blocked his number. And I moved on with a life that didn't require me to play detective in my own home. So let me ask you something real. And don't answer this out loud. Just sit with it. If a mysterious package showed up at your door at 2 p.m., would you open it? Would you trust the person sleeping next to you enough to leave your fate in their hands? Because sometimes the scariest delivery isn't bad news. It's the truth showing up when you weren't ready to see it. And if this story hit close to home, if you've ever felt that gut feeling you tried to ignore it and ignore it again, hit like if you believe. Karma doesn't need to be loud to be deadly. Subscribe if you want more stories where the truth wins, cheaters lose, and secrets don't. Survive the light. And drop a comment if you've ever trusted the wrong person. Because you're not alone, and the next story is even crazier.